All right. Um, so I was going to talk a little bit about the purpose of this some more, of vlogging. Now, I've been doing online conversational, dialogue since it was in text only, since my early teens, on bulletin board systems, and then on FidoNet, and then on the internet, and New York Times forums for years, Daily Kos for years, got kicked out of there, and YouTube. A lot of other places too, but those have been primary places. Right now, I see that the value of this, I'm going to draw from a metaphor that a lot of people might not get, but it's this metaphor is worth it in its own right. But it relates to the force of gravity being the weakest force, the weakest of the five forces. And how, when you look at the galaxy's celestial mechanics, gravity is the force that shaped that, right? And that's because the so-called weakest force, counterintuitively, is really just the slowest acting force. So over the longest period of time, it's the one that you see the power of. So the message is the so-called weakest force is still a force, and it's persistent, and it's really just a force that expresses itself over the longest period of time, right? So an explosion on the surface of the Earth is very exciting, a lot of energy in a small space, but it lasts for a very short time, and then it's over, and then the ash all falls back down to Earth under gravity, and it could have blown up a million different ways. It'll just settle back down in the same way, and its effect will have been very localized in time and space, right? On the other hand, gravity can exert forces that build up over time, for example, tectonically, which is suddenly released in a giant, fast moving, short, localized, you know, phenomena like an earthquake. And this is what I think our conversation is like. People have discussed these topics that we're discussing for centuries. And some of them might seem very pressing, like people that see the culture war as an imminent, ongoing thing. I see it as just a part of history. There's always this culture war going on. And it's really just the growing and evolutionary pains. But I see that our conversation is like gravity. It can have a quick release, and there could be a social movement because of it. But for example, things like euthanasia that I believed from a youth that also has gotten stronger. I don't think it got stronger because I was for it, other than, because a lot of people being for it is what made that happen. It's really because of the conversations, a century ago coming to a fruition. And my advocacy would probably have an influence centuries or decades from now through this conversation, our conversation, right? And like gravity, my particular, pull is not weak. It's all adding up together. There's a natural averaging that comes out that we call, the culture. So I believe in taking it seriously and being consistent, because for the weak force thing to work out that way, it has to be consistent. So on top of that, I think we're putting ourselves on record. I think many, most, maybe all of these videos and the blogs that people write and whatnot are going to be available in 200 years. I would be interested to go back and see who predicted the future and was for it, who predicted the future but was against it, but they still correctly predicted it. I think that would be interesting and a part of sort of this cultural mental state, so there can be continuity and consistency. And people do end up finding arguments from the past when subjects are rediscovered and it's realized that they're important after all, when maybe they were dismissed in the past. So I believe in taking it seriously, but not acting like we're in the middle of a front where all is going to be lost. I mean, it's not based on anyone's name here, and none of our names will probably be remembered when the things we believe win, when they do. And if they lose, nobody's really going to bother to remember, oh, that means that Pyrrho was wrong 100 years ago. And it's really a matter of taking part in it, is being part of the force that is bringing us into the future. Just a little part, not trying to control it, which would be psychotic, but to be a part of it. And my belief is that while I like my ideas and my assessments, my belief in this conversation is the main thing is to be honest, because then that's putting information out there that's, if not true or perfect, at least it's what people are honestly offering. It's what they thought was true. And and then everything can average out with this kind of information leading towards veracity. Some people are very good at figuring out what's true, and if they're careful, and even the people that aren't so good at it are as careful as they can be, it'll lean in the direction of getting information out there. And I believe that the well-informed decision that future people make will be better than a poorly informed one. So I think we need our own website really to take this to the next level. But that's not the only problem. The other problem is that people are here all evangelizing for something they've figured out, as opposed to just informing us about what they figured out. And it leads to an emotional difficulty. Um, I right now, I think the conversations have been in the doldrums. I think it was stunned and never recovered when they took away replies and the whole idea of replying. And it's stagnated, but still, this conversation that I'm having with Heithel today to me is very valuable. And I would like to talk to Gary, but there's that emotional thing I was just mentioning where an evangelist can't just face that there's an inevitability of having differences forever with other people. The idea is they're all eventually going to agree. And even in the idea that, hey, by arguing with me, a lot of viewers could be convinced of your side and you will get more people agreeing with you. That's not good enough. It's got to be every single person. And you're dishonest if you don't agree. If you don't agree, then you weren't listening, and so on and so forth. And really, it's delusional to me for any of us to be here expecting those kinds of immediate results. The only value of being in this particular conversation, the way I'm taking part in it, is to get information about why there's people out there. See, if we don't know that those people are out there voting. When I was a kid and then Reagan wins, and I'm like, how's that possible? Everybody's against him. It wasn't until I was older I realized, oh, I lived in California at the time. California, uh, I actually wasn't even against him. But oh, I was in Northern Cal. I was in a part, to figure out why that was, because you just think, oh, here's what people are like from based on what you know and you've heard. And now we can take a cross section of basically anybody can get on and be a part of that cross section. And statistically, it's likely to be representative of something. And I believe that's good to do that, to get information about these other views so that we will understand what's going on or where it's coming from. Where the support of Trump, the different factions are easier to see by taking part in this conversation than if we didn't. So, um, I just find this so obvious. But it seems to me like it's worth making a point about because people always are disagreeing and saying, "Oh yeah, right, sure, you're trying to become a talk show host. Oh, everybody cares about subs." Or somebody recently was like, "You have more videos than subs. What does that tell you?" That's like you have more minutes on your cell phone plan than you have friends. What? You have more, yeah, because it's a conversation. The point is that when I make a video, there are people that come back with what they think on that subject, or why they think that subject isn't even important, or randomly, maybe just because there was a new video, they put a comment about some other subject that I've talked about in the past, or that they think I should talk about, or that they want to talk about. This kind of feedback is the purpose. Having a million subscribers and 20,000 comments just adds noise to that. It does not improve that, which is why I think there needs to be a particular site for it. We need to weed out people that just want to monetize. Because go ahead, you want to monetize, great. Everybody needs a career, but it's not really what I'm interested in. It doesn't help. It doesn't help me. And you know, just just ideas. And if there was a structure to help people remember that they're not going to eliminate other people's ideas. You're there to find out and then to put good information in. You're competitive, great. Then make sure you put in better information that's more convincing. There will be viewers that are going, huh, oh, good point. And you will get all of your dreams like that. But really, it's just about getting the information out. You thinking you have a convert, they can convert to something else later, and they will, and their kids will. So I'm not into that particular game, but if that's really important to you, fine, but it can't be the point. And certainly monetizing and wanting a crowd to make money off, that's no good. And wanting a crowd to get a big following, that's kind of iffy too. But I would allow that because we'll just have to see. I mean, uh, to a certain degree, I don't think that's only possible if your idea has ripened, right? If the conversation 200 years ago had started talking about that, maybe now it's ripened, and you're the one that says it first out loud, then people go, oh, yeah, I was thinking that same kind of thing. So I wouldn't want to disallow that because I think that's natural. But I would disallow advertisement funding monetization because that does not help the conversation. In fact, it corrupts it beyond uh, redemption and healing.